Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. I hope you're all doing really well. If you're new here, I'm Sally and this is my channel Secret Life of a Seamstress, where I love to talk all about sewing, making clothes and sometimes other crafts and knitting and crochet and reading and things as well. And I'm saying all of those things because today's video is very much going to be a mix of everything. So it's been quite a while since I've just sat down and filmed one of these sort of chatty catch-up videos, and I do have a few new things to share. So I've got some sewing makes to catch you up on, I've got some new fabrics, I've got a couple of new patterns, I've got a finished knitting object, a new knitting project that I've started, crochet, and also some reading too. I love filming these kind of videos because I feel like I can just sit here and have a bit of a chat. So this video will probably be very sort of relaxed and go and get a cup of tea like I have, and I hope that you will enjoy. And with all that said, let's get straight into it, shall we? So I feel like I've really picked up with my sewing this month. I shared, I think, probably on Instagram, that I was finding it difficult to get back into everything in January. I just felt really kind of in a bit of a slump, but I feel like what inspired me to get started the most was actually to have a big declutter of my fabric storage, which is behind me, and I've also got some fabric upstairs as well. So just take everything out, roll it up nicely, tidy it up, remind myself what I've actually got, remind myself of the plans that I've had for the fabrics that were in the cupboard that I've not yet got around to. And just looking at those fabrics just really inspired me to get sewing and making again. So I thought I would just give a little roundup of everything I've made so far this year. I won't go into too much detail with some of the makes because a few of them you will have already seen if you are a regular viewer of my channel, because I've filmed them as sew-alongs or sewing days in my life. So let's start with what I'm wearing today, shall we? So underneath this cardigan, this is a handmade cardigan, by the way. This is my Rowan brushed fleece cardigan. I made this last year and I love it so much. It was the simplest cardigan to knit ever, I think. It's really just made up of rectangles and two sleeves with some very sort of light shaping in them, and this big wide band of rib. There's not even any rib on the bottom of the back and sides, so yeah, very quick and easy. Because the yarn is chunky, it knits up super quickly as well, and even though it's such a super simple knit, it's probably one of my most worn knit garments. So yeah, I highly recommend that pattern if you are a beginner knitter. But anyway, I wasn't going to talk about that knit necessarily in this part of the video. What I want to share with you is the top that I'm wearing underneath this. So underneath my cardigan I was wearing an Agnes top that I made in January. So this was actually my first garment make of 2025, and I must make sure that I write down my makes this year so that I'm not scrabbling around to find a list at the end of the year, because I always like to look back and see what I've made. But yeah, this is just a standard Agnes top, but this time I've sewn it from a lovely drapey Tencel modal rib jersey from Meat Milk. So of course I chose one of my favourite rusty brown shades, and I just bought a metre of this. So there's not a lot to say about this one really. You know that I love the Agnes top, probably my favourite and most go-to pattern for a fitted t-shirt. I love to make them just to wear underneath things like the cardigan I was wearing. Something I would say about the Agnes top actually, and I forget this every time, I forget to change this when I do sew the pattern up, but you can probably see that the sleeves, even though they're short, are quite long. So with the Agnes top there are 3 different variations of sleeve that you can sew. You can sew a full length long sleeve, you can sew a short sleeve like what I've got on today, or there's this sort of ruched poofy gathered sleeve that you can do as well. So I generally tend to go for the shorter sleeve, but the short sleeve line on the pattern where you cut the sleeve is actually quite long. So every time I make this I think I must shorten the sleeve, and I never do. And also the length of the top is also quite long. It's good to have it to tuck into things obviously, but I do find that this is so long that it bunches up a little bit. So that's my first make of 2025. Next in sewing, I thought I would share a few little patchwork projects that I've been sewing in January. I mentioned on Instagram that I had a little bit of a funny couple of weeks in January where I just felt really down and a little bit anxious, and I just felt like I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I find that whenever I feel like that, some of the best sort of crafting things I can do for my mental health are to go back to basics with sewing and make something really simple, really easy. Often not a garment actually, normally something that's more of an accessory or something for the home, because I feel like that's a lot less stressful. And the other thing that's really good when I feel that way is knitting. These were actually part of my Mrs. Quilty subscription box, which I was kindly gifted and I shared earlier in the year. So one afternoon I just sat down and I started to sew this little patchwork book sleeve, and it was just like therapy really. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I love patchwork anyway, I love sewing it, and I also just love looking at it. I just think the combination of fabrics are so pretty and they always just bring me joy. So it was really nice to go back to a little bit of patchwork, and I find cutting out the rectangles really therapeutic because it's all straight lines, and I love the sewing in it because again it's just straight lines. You don't have to think too much. You've just got the whirring sound of the sewing machine and the repetition of the needle and the satisfying pressing and all of that kind of stuff that comes with patchwork. So I sewed this up one afternoon and I felt so much better for it. And then another Saturday afternoon, I thought I'm going to do a little bit more patchwork, just a little bit of sewing, no pressure, you know, just sit down and sew. And I ended up making these little bookmarks as well. So these again were part of the subscription box. This one is just a rectangular patchwork front piece and it's backed by a single piece of fabric. And then this one is simply a front and back rectangle sewn together and turned through and then quilted. And then the other little project that I also sewed up one Saturday afternoon was these book corners. So these are little page markers, and what you do is you just slip this opening over the corner of your sleeve and it just marks where you are in the book. It's just a different form of bookmark really. But again, you can just play around with the different fabrics, you can piece them together really nicely, play around with the tones and things. And I just thoroughly enjoyed making those. And I did say in my New Year's resolution kind of video that I was intending to focus a little bit more on my slow sewing and mindful crafts, and that would be like patchwork, not only this kind of machine patchwork but also my hand patchwork and hexie quilt and things like that. So if you're feeling the same, if you are feeling a bit anxious and a bit down, I would definitely urge you just to pick up a really quick and easy project. It doesn't have to be a patchwork one, but something that you know that you can sew quickly, and just have a go at it and you'll probably feel so much better for it like I did. So these are the projects that I'm just going to quickly whiz through because you may have already seen me sew and talk about this in a previous video. This was my second garment make of this year so far, and it's the Annabelle wrap dress by Stylark. I did feel like this was a bit of a seasonally inappropriate make for the time that I was sewing it. I remember one day when I was sewing it, it was like -3 outside. It was very cold. I absolutely love sewing this dress. All of the details are in my sew along video, which I will link down below. What I mainly love about this dress though, I will just quickly say, is the frill, which runs all around the bodice and then on the sleeves as well. So next I have my waffle lounge set, which I also filmed as a sew along. So again, I won't chat too much about this one, but again, I was just really engrossed in that project. I loved it. I used two patterns that I already owned, so the Jarrah and the Tyra trousers, almost forgot the name there, and just adapted them slightly to make them a little bit more in line with the high street inspiration image that I was using to create this set. So with the Jarrah, I've just sewn an elasticated hem at the bottom and also elastic at the sleeve seams as well. So that's the waistline of the trousers, and then we've got the pocket there as well. So with the Tyra trousers, I was adapting a pattern that's meant for a woven fabric and sewing it with a knit fabric. So that was a bit of an experiment. The reason I thought it was okay to do that was because there's not a lot of stretching out in that garment type. You wouldn't obviously do that kind of fabric change with a stretch pattern. So I couldn't, for example, sew my Agnes top from a woven fabric. That just wouldn't work because the pattern's drafted to allow for the stretch in the fabric. So if I was to sew this pattern in a viscose fabric, it would be super tight because there's no sort of real stretch in woven fabric not in the same way as there is jersey anyway. Last in sewing, I'm going to share this make which I just finished this week. This is another sagebrush Norma pattern combination. So the body of the top is made from the sagebrush pattern and the sleeves are sewn from the Fibre Mood Norma. So I've done that hack in the past before and it works really nicely for me because I much prefer these sleeves to the big puffy sagebrush sleeves, but I do like the body of the sagebrush. So I've just sewn it again from this really lovely embroidered cotton fabric, which is so pretty. I picked this up from John Lewis and just absolutely loved it. I think broderie anglaise and embroidered fabrics are my favourite fabrics to work with, definitely. So I did that pattern combination and also added a couple of different hacks. So instead of having the bow tie at the back like you normally would with the sagebrush, I've actually hacked the back to have a button band, and also I've just added this pleating detail at the bottom, and I've cropped the top quite a lot as well. So there's quite a lot of different changes and things that I needed to make to the pattern, and I needed to do quite a lot of measuring and a little bit of altering to form the pleat and do the button band and everything. I share the whole sewing process of this make, including exactly what I did, the changes I made and all the measurements and everything, in my February Patreon exclusive video, which has just gone live this Friday. If you're not familiar with Patreon, it's my sewing membership. So within that you get extra videos and tutorials and tips and tricks, and as part of that you get a monthly exclusive, longer, more in-depth, more chatty video every month. So I'm normally sewing something up and I'll just go into a bit more detail about the changes I make and what I'm doing, and little tutorials and things to help along the way. So do pop over and check that out if you feel like you would be interested in that. I had such fun sewing this top, and the other challenge I had while I was making this is that actually my overlocker at the moment has been sent away because it's broken. So I actually sent my sewing machine and my overlocker to be serviced in half term, which was a week or so ago now. The sewing machine was serviced and came back fine, but they actually phoned me to say that my overlocker has a fault in it and it needed to be sent away, and I'm not actually going to get it back until next Friday, I've just discovered, and I really miss it. But I really wanted to sew this up as part of my Patreon make. So as well, in that video you've also got me having to finish all my seams without my overlocker. So there's French seams in there, and I'm also using one of my machine feet, which I've never tried before, which was a lovely experiment. So yeah, love this top so much, I'm so pleased with it, and I had such fun making it. So that's that one. So let's move on to new fabrics, shall we? So I have been picking up a few new fabrics lately. I do have a holiday coming up in April and I do want to get some sewing done for it. I'm feeling a little bit tight for time, especially with not having an overlocker for another week or so. So I'm not sure how much of my ambitious holiday wardrobe I'm actually going to get sewn up, but I did have a few things I really would like to get done before we go, so we'll see if it happens or not. First one is this lovely cotton lawn fabric. Let me put these down actually. I think this is a Lady McElroy fabric and it's from Minerva. It's so pretty and the floral design just really caught my eye. 1 meter of this, and what I would quite like to sew out of this one is another Stylark All-Me blouse, which I made in the summertime last year, and I think I have a sew along video all about that as well actually. It wasn't the most easy pattern to sew, it wasn't the best Stylark pattern in terms of instructions, but I think now I've made it once I'll probably know how to just change it a little bit and make it better next time. So I want to sew that blouse again, but with the ruffle at the neckline I just want to sort of reduce how wide that ruffle is and have it a little bit narrower around the V neckline, and I think that will probably work nicely. And then I also mentioned in my what I want to make this year video that I want to make another pair of denim shorts, a pair of Dawn jean shorts, because I love the Dawn jeans so much that I felt the fit and everything for a pair of those shorts would be really good. So I ordered this olive green denim, and then when it came I thought, I don't know what I was thinking with that. I don't really feel like I want a pair of olive green denim shorts. So I think what I'm going to do is actually make something else out of this. I just can't see it as a pair of denim shorts for me. I think what I'm going to have to do is order some more denim, either in a light denim or a dark denim, because that's what I'm going to feel more comfortable wearing, and I know that those colours will go much more easily with other things that I have in my wardrobe. So that is my lesson learned, really. I should know the colours that I like and I should just stick to that. It's not that I don't like this colour, I actually do really like this colour, but I just think as a pair of denim shorts it's just not working in my head. So I'm going to save this fabric, and I think it will work really nicely for an autumn make, like a denim skirt or even a pinafore dress or something like that. I can see it as like a v-neck pinafore dress with a black polo neck or something underneath it. So I'm sure I will definitely use this for something, but yeah, probably not the denim shorts. So that was a little bit of a slight fail, and I now need to go back and order some more denim, which is a little bit annoying. The other fabric I picked up in the same Minerva order was this viscose linen. So again, this was a slight fail, unfortunately. I brought this because I wanted to use this fabric for my Blanca flight suit, which I want to make as a shorts jumpsuit. So I ordered this beige viscose linen. This is shedding everywhere. You can see all the fibres floating around in the air. But then when it arrived, I realised that it's actually quite see-through, and I'm not sure it's going to be suitable for a flight suit like that. And I actually don't think it's got enough structure in it either. For my last Blanca flight suit, I used a Gabardino fabric, which is like a twill fabric, but it's got a slight amount of stretch in it. And I felt like that fabric worked really nicely. So similar to the denim, I don't know why I didn't just stick to what I knew and just go for the same fabric again, but in a different colour. So again, this fabric, I do love it and I love the colour, but I think it's just going to be used for something different to what I originally brought it for. So following from that fail, I went back to the Minerva website. I went on the Gabardino listing and just chose myself a different colour. But rather than go for beige this time, I decided to go for khaki. I can't even tell you why. I just changed my mind in terms of colour. I do love khaki, as you know, so yeah, I just decided to go for this, and I thought that would work quite nicely as a utility style play suit as well. But again, I'm going to have to wait for my overlocker for that, I think, because I really don't fancy doing French seams or even just using a zigzag on a full jumpsuit. I really want it to be sort of really neatly finished inside. And then lastly, in fabric, I picked up some swimwear fabric. I mentioned again in my What I Want to Sew This Year video that I want to have another go at swimwear. I have made swimwear in the past, but it's not been a great success in terms of the fit on me. So I really want to have another go, and Fabric Godmother, they do this and they always get me. They send their lovely marketing emails with their new fabric in stock, and they had a load of lovely Liberty print swimwear on one of their marketing emails. So I got completely suckered in, went to have a look and ended up buying quite a lot actually of this Liberty print swimwear fabric, which has all my favourite colours in: navy, mustard, pink, blue, green. It's so lovely. So I have a pattern in mind that I may or may not sew with this fabric, which I'll share with you in a minute in the patterns section. Right, new patterns then. First of all, I'll start with the easy one before I waffle on about swimwear. I've actually got my phone out so that I can check the name of this blouse. It's the Nephiline blouse, I think, by Vivian Xiao Chen. And again, I saw this on the fold line, I think. I was just searching their new patterns and came across this one, and I was just totally suckered in by how pretty and how lovely it is. So I ordered that and had it printed out in like the copy shop print format so that I could get on with it whenever inspiration struck. I love this blouse because I love the sort of scoop neckline and the very delicate sort of frill around the collar piece here. I'm giving myself another very awkward gathering task to do with this one, I think. And I also really liked the knife pleats on the sleeve as well. I thought that was a lovely detail, and I keep seeing these kind of pleats all over, and that's why I wanted to have a go at one of them on my sagebrush and Norma top as well. I thought it would be really fun to give a nod to that trend. So that's a lovely pattern that I really can't wait to have a go at. And the other pattern that I picked up was this McCall's pattern, M7168. So I think I might have mentioned that I had my eye on this pattern as a swimwear set to sew for this year. So I bought the pattern, brought that swimwear fabric, and then had a bit of a change of heart about whether or not I actually wanted to sew this pattern. I searched swimwear patterns and came across this really lovely Vogue pattern. I'll pop the image in here, and I really love this one. I think this is kind of 70s style. It's got this big V-neck, a little sort of keyhole opening. I love the leg height. I'm always on the lookout for very good good coverage in swimwear bottoms, and I thought this pattern sort of did tick that box. I really do like these big vintage high-waisted bottoms, and I think they look really flattering as well. I really like that kind of style. But yeah, with this 70s style Vogue swimwear pattern, there's also that kind of coverage in the leg as well, and I thought the sort of halter neck style and the V-neck was really pretty, and also the delicate bias binding around the edge of the swimsuit too, which I'm sure would give anyone who's sewing this pattern a right headache to do. But it does look really pretty, doesn't it? So I'm now between those two patterns. In a way, I kind of think that my Liberty fabric would suit the Vogue pattern better than it would suit this one. Please do let me know what you think. Let me know which you would sew. Would you sew this vintage style two-piece set, or would you have a go at the Vogue 70s swimsuit pattern? Let me know in the comments. And I'd also like to know as well whether anyone has sewn a Vogue pattern. I've never actually sewn a Vogue pattern, so I don't know what they're like in terms of instructions and in terms of fit and all that kind of thing. So I'd love to know if you do have any tips. So let's move on to knitting then. I have one finished knitting object to show you, and that is my Salt House slipover, which I've been knitting for what feels like quite a while. This is by Mode Rowan. So this is all finished and it's quite hot off the needles. Well, no, I say that actually, it has been off the needles for quite some time, but I haven't blocked it yet because I just haven't really found the time to do it. So I haven't really done anything with this. I haven't taken any photos or anything of this so far, just because I didn't want to do that before I'd blocked it. I have tried it on and I'm really happy with the fit actually, because I was a little bit worried about how this was going to fit. It's knit bottom up, and so you can't really try it on in the same way as you can try on like a top down knit. So I was a little bit concerned about the length and where to stop with the length and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, I'm really pleased with how this turned out. It was lovely and easy to knit really. So the bottom is knit in the round, and then you separate at the armholes for the sleeves and the shaping for the neck and all of that. And then you join the shoulder seams in a really nice way actually. It's like a double cast off, a much better finish than if you were going to be sewing it up by hand. So this is knit with Rowan alpaca yarn and alpaca haze held together to give this really sort of thick, chunky, dense texture. I can tell this is going to be really nice and warm. And I love the colour of this as well, and I think this will be really nice just for wearing over long sleeve tops as we go into springtime, but also shirts and things like that too. I always feel like knitting projects aren't finished now if I haven't given them a soak, so I feel like I need to do that, and then I'll feel like it's all finished and done, and then I can start wearing it. I can properly put it in the wardrobe and then it can be warm. So of course I couldn't be without a knitting project for too long after I'd finished that, so I immediately pretty much downloaded a pattern that I've wanted to have a go at for ages, and that is this cardigan. It's called The First Cardigan by Hive Knits. So I actually had the pleasure of meeting Lizzie of Hive Knits at the Rowan event that we went to last May, and Lizzie was wearing this cardigan and I was looking at it thinking that is so lovely, and it was her own pattern, and I always thought I really want to have a go at that. And because I really wanted to sort of have a go at fisherman's rib this year, I specifically said that I wanted to knit something this year involving fisherman's rib. So this kind of fit that bill perfectly, and I thought now is the time. If I can get this cardigan knit properly, it will be a lovely one for springtime. So this, I'll pop the image in on the screen as well so that you can see it properly, but it's a V-neck cardigan and it's got raglan sleeves, and the sleeves are actually knit in half fisherman's rib, so it's not full fisherman's rib. You do the half fisherman's rib on the knit side of your knitting, and you do a normal rib on the purl side, so it's not like you're fully knitting fisherman's rib. The sleeves are actually balloon sleeves, so they've got this lovely gather at the cuff, and the rest of the body and the fronts are knit in stocking stitch. So that bit's quite nice and easy. So let me show you where I'm at with this so far. It's going to be difficult because there's quite a lot of it on the needles at the moment because I'm doing all of the raglan increases. So this is top down. So it basically sits like this. So you can see that I've started with the raglan increases there, and we've got the half fisherman's rib, which is so lovely to do. I'm finding this such a lovely project to be knitting. It does take ages at the moment because when you're doing the raglan like yoke part, you've got so many stitches on the needle, haven't you? And it just seems to take forever, but I'm thoroughly enjoying it. And I really like knitting like this because I find it really keeps your interest, because in each of the rows you've got some knit and some purl, but then you've also got the fisherman's rib, so there is a little bit of sort of changing up and doing different stitches in there, which I am really enjoying. Stretch out the rib and just show you what it looks like. It's lovely, isn't it? It's lovely, isn't it? I really like the look of fisherman's rib. So I've got all these little stitch holders here just to mark the increases down the front of the cardigan where we're going to have the V neckline. And then this is the back, which is just stocking stitch. And can you see here, you might be able to see the raglan. So the weight of yarn you're supposed to use for that cardigan is like a DK weight, is an 8 ply, I think. I hope I'm remembering that right. So I went for one of the alternate yarn suggestions in the pattern, and I'm using a Drops Nord yarn, which I'd never used before. This is actually a 4 ply yarn. Comes in loads of different colours. It's got a little bit of a fluffy texture to it. It's alpaca and wool, it says, but it is a 4 ply. And then I'm holding that together with Drops Kid Silk. So this is like a mohairy kind of weight, or it's a lace weight, I should say. I always used to see loads of lovely garments being made with yarns held together like this, and I always used to think, don't they get really tangled? But actually they don't. I don't know how, really. Lastly, in yarn crafts, I thought I would just give you a quick crochet update as well, because I have been working a little bit on this too. This is my crochet granny square blanket, and this has really grown probably from the last time I showed you. Just looking at that yarn on the camera, it looks so nice, doesn't it? I love these balls of yarn that just kind of colour change as you go. I am at the end of my ball of yarn now, sadly, and I've had to buy a couple more balls because obviously this is nowhere near blanket size yet. And it's really interesting because your colour is changing all the time. So you're going from purple to pink to brown to even a bit of blue in there as well, and I just love it. I love crochet. I'm not a very technical crocheter at all. I never really crochet garments or anything, or at least I've never tried so far. Crochet for me at the moment anyway is just all about the feel of it in your hands and how mindful and therapeutic and easy it is. So I always pick this up if I just don't want to think too much, and I'm just going to keep going with this until I feel it's big enough. I've ordered 2 more giant balls of wool, but obviously the bigger you get with your square, the more yarn it takes as you're going around, so it doesn't grow as quickly. So we will see where we go with this one. I think it's going to be a really nice summer weight blanket, this one. Right, I feel like I've talked for quite some time now. So before I go, I'm just going to do a little reading update because I have been reading quite a few different books since Christmas. As you can see, I have quite the pile here. Some of these actually are to be read rather than what I've actually read. So for Christmas, I got this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. So this one was really highly recommended to me by so many different people that I thought I must put it on my Christmas list and read it. It's a really thin book. It doesn't take very long to read at all. And it's all about a boy who's searching for his destiny, basically. So he's following his dream, and it's all about his journey from his hometown and the people that he meets and the things that he learns along the way. Yeah, I have to say, I didn't really get this book. I kind of enjoyed it, but I didn't love it. And I know that there are loads of people that absolutely love this book and find it really helpful as like a self-help kind of book. I don't know if it's because I have a different kind of faith to maybe what this book is trying to say. So it's all about following your dreams and basically realizing that the things that happen to you along the way in life are happening for a reason. It reminded me of an Aesop's fable. So after that one, I also got this book for Christmas, The Familiars by Stacey Halls. I read The Foundling in autumn time last year, and it's probably one of my favorite books. I absolutely loved it. Most of her books are set in the past. They're historical fiction, and I just find her writing style really emotive. So I love Stacey Halls as an author, and I did really enjoy this one, but I would say I didn't enjoy it as much as The Foundling. I feel like this one was very much more set around how witchcraft was perceived in 1612. This is set in how women often would get accused of witchcraft. So I think, although again I really loved her writing style and really loved how it was written, the scenery and everything that she paints in her writing is really magical, but in terms of the story I just didn't love this one quite as much as The Familiars. And then, as a little break from historical fiction, I knew this one was going to be just a really easy page turner to read. I picked this up for £1 in our local WH Smith's. They had a big sale on, and I do like Lisa Jewell for like a thriller writer. I've read a few of her books in the past and they're always really quite captivating. This one was really good. It's not a thriller, it's like a mystery book, so it follows a lady who's trying to discover what happened to her in the past, basically. And it was actually really emotional as well, because it talks a lot about her childhood and how her life was formed by some tragic things that actually happened to her parents and her family. Again, I won't say too much because I don't want to spoil the story, but I do highly recommend that one if you're just looking for a quick and easy read. It was very good. So on to what I'm currently reading and what I'm planning to read. I'm currently reading another Stacey Halls book, which I got from the library. This is Mrs. England. This one again is historical fiction set around a nurse who goes to join like an aristocratic family, and the mystery about the lady of the house there. And it's all really about that story and uncovering that mystery. And again, I was just so engrossed and captivated in this the minute I started reading it. Just find her, it's similar to The Miniaturist, I think, her style of writing. I've got about 100 more pages to read of this and then I'll be done with that one. Another historical fiction book that I picked up from the library was this one, Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. This has been on my list for some time as well, so I just picked it up while I was in the library. On a summer's day in 1596, a young girl in Stratford-upon-Avon takes to her bed with a fever. Her twin brother Hamnet searches everywhere for help. Why is nobody home? And then it says, Hamnet is a novel inspired by the son of a famous playwright. It is a story of the bond between twins and of a marriage pushed to the brink by grief. So I think this one is going to be quite an emotional one. I shared this on Instagram and loads of people messaged me to say this was their most favourite book ever. So I have high hopes for this one and I'm really looking forward to reading this one after I finish Mrs. England. And then in a different kind of genre, I guess, I have this one to read, A Court of Thorns and Roses. So I actually brought this for my sister for Christmas and she read it so quickly that she passed it on to me, and now she wants to read the rest of the series. So again, this has been on my list for ages. It is a different kind of genre for me. I think it's fantasy. Is it called romantasy? I think that's the kind of genre that this is in. So it's like romance and fantasy at the same time. But I've heard so many people say that they love this series that I really do want to give it a read and see what I think as well. So let me know if you've read this series and let me know what you think of it. I'm really looking forward to giving this a go, but I think I'm going to get my library books done first. So that is it. I think that's everything I have to catch you up on today. I feel like I have talked for ages. My voice is probably even more croaky than normal. If you have made it to this point in the video, thank you so much for sticking with me. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you think of the things that I've made, and let me know what you think of my new fabrics and what I should make with them. Please do let me know about the swimwear situation. I'd love to have your opinions, and let me know if you've read any of those books too and what you thought. Don't forget you can pop over and follow me on Instagram for more day-to-day photos and videos and behind the scenes. And I do, as I mentioned, have a Patreon membership which you can join if you fancy. It's just the price of about a cup of coffee every month, and I share a monthly exclusive extra long vlog where I'm always sewing something up, tips and tricks and pattern roundups and things like that. So if you feel like that might be interesting to you, then I will leave that link down below, of course. Don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. I'm getting so close to 20,000 subscribers now, which I'm so grateful for. So if you haven't already subscribed and you do regularly watch my videos, I would love you to consider subscribing. If you have enjoyed this video, please do give it a like as well. I'm going to stop talking now and go and get another cup of tea or a drink of some kind. Take care everyone, and I'll look forward to seeing you soon. Bye.